Welcome back, Buccaneers fans, to another episode of Hear the Cannons presented by BucsGameday.com. My name is Caleb Skinner at CHS No on X, writer and reporter here for Bucs Game Day. Along with me, as always, is our lead editor, River Wells, at River H Wells on X. We're happy to be here with you guys. The Buccaneers are back in the win column after beating the Arizona Cardinals in a tightly contested matchup, 20-17. River, we're going to get into that here in a bit. But some quick hitters, man. There was some pretty cool news that came out about the Buccaneers' 50th anniversary. You mind touching on that for the folks a little bit?
Yeah, Logan Robinson, our site editor, and I actually went to a preview of this new. It's a show, kind of like a docuseries, 10 episodes on Amazon Prime about the history of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers from the beginning to the end. Um, Made by the same guy who does all the All or Nothing documentaries for Amazon. He's actually, I think he's from here, a Bucs fan, so it makes sense that they would hire him to do that. It's really cool, man. It's going to come out December 11th. We only saw snippets from 3 episodes in different eras, kind of.
Ooh, that's pretty neat.
Uh, and we saw one from the old Buccaneers with Doug Williams, and Jimmy Giles, and then we saw one about the snippet we got was about them trading for John Gruden. And then,
Oh,
of course, Tom Brady yelling at Ali Marpet was our last snippet. So they both got to come out, and we got to talk to them about that. But it looked really cool. It was really well done, shot super well, really good documentary style filmmaking, and I'm definitely gonna tune in, and I can't wait to watch it because that little preview we got, I think Bucs fans are gonna really enjoy this, and it looked really cool.
yeah, super exciting. I just watched a quick little snippet that was released today
Yeah.
on social media and everything. It looks really cool. I'm super excited for it. Not real sure what to expect. I mean, you guys got to see a little bit more of it than I did, but as a Bucs fan, growing up and now being able to cover them, I'm super stoked to be able to see, how they put this together. How are they going to encapsulate all these 50 years of Buccaneers football? And for even that, for Prime to be able to pick it up, that's an even bigger thing. Getting the Bucs out there, being a small market team, getting some eyes on the franchise is just going to be awesome. Period. But with that being said, let's go ahead and move into this game that we just watched this past Sunday, a nail biter, 2017. Not necessarily what you want. I know that the Arizona Cardinals scratch and claw. The record
Yeah.
says that they're worse than what they actually are, in my opinion. But the Buccaneers, solid day, not great. Some things to nitpick on both sides of the ball. But we did see the return of Bucky Irving, which is great, as well as Hassan Reddick. Chris Godwin reemerging as well, looking like his old self, third and Godwin. We got to mention that during when we were up in the press box during the game as well on that third down where Baker scrambled out right and then hit Godwin. But your thoughts on this game, and then we can kind of dig into the weeds a little bit if you want until we get into some of the injury updates and this preview that we have with the New Orleans Saints.
Yeah, I mean, they got the job done and they needed to. I mean, they really needed to, because otherwise, they were cooked. But the Cardinals have played everybody close, but even still, you had a 17-3 lead going into the half. And we really talk about that killer instinct that the Bucs want, and they always say that they want it and they never have it, right? When
Mm-hmm.
you're up 17-3, you have to put your foot on the gas and really truly beat a team. And the entire year, and even when the Bucs were 6-2, they had a lot of trouble truly beating a team, definitively proving that they are the better squad out there, letting teams hang around. It's definitely a coaching issue. It's a discipline issue. If they look tired, it's a conditioning issue. There's a lot of different things going on there, but it's some of the little things like Todd Bowles says, not tackling, not being where you're supposed to be, and the defense really let the Cardinals right back into the game, and they made a great stop at the very end. Anthony Nelson, shout out to him, always making big plays in the clutch, but they just got to be better. And they know that, and the offense has to be better. All three phases of this team. I said 2 weeks ago on this podcast, I did not think the Buccaneers were a very good football team. And I still kind of stand by that after watching them play Arizona. There are a few things that they improved on, which we'll definitely touch on
Mm-hmm.
before the Saints game. But right now, when you look at the inconsistent football Carolina's playing, but the top end of how they play, I think they're just right now they're playing better football. The Bucs offense is really struggling. Bucs defense is struggling. We had a great special teams week. Riley Dixon,
Great
NFC
day.
Special Teams Player of the Week. He was a great punter.
Three punts
Um,
inside the 20-yard line, man. That's good
Fantastic.
stuff.
Shout out to him. Shout out to the Gunners, Cam Johnson. All those guys are up there. Good stuff. But so for once, that was a good phase. But complimentary football, being able to play good offense and then good defense back to back. This Bucs team under Todd Bowles has always kind of really struggled with doing that.
Yeah.
So that's what they're gonna have to find. So we'll see if they can do it.
Putting together all three phases of the game, putting together, two halves of a game, four
Yeah.
quarters of a game. It just somehow just a minute, like it's just not there for the Buccaneers, and it hasn't been.
Mm-hmm.
And we've harped on that, and we see it week in, week out, just as much as you guys do. But some positives from it. Vita Vea had a pretty solid game. Obviously, the reemergence or the reintroduction of Hassan Reddick into the defensive line helped be able to create some of those pressures on the outside. Chris Godwin, as mentioned, getting back in with 70-something yards without a touchdown, only 3 catches, but seeing him get more acclimated into the offense, seeing him being able to trust his body seemed very good. And then Bucky Irving, we thought there was going to be limited touches, but it really didn't see to be all that limited for him on that end of things, did it?
No, it didn't, and he kind of showed that little explosiveness that he has there. It's making those big explosive plays. That's something that we've seen Sean Tucker able to do occasionally. Bucky Irving can do it a lot more, and it's something that Rashad White can't really do. So it really adds a third sort of dimension to this Bucs rushing offense that was missed. Asked Graham Barton today, how do you feel when Bucky runs to the left side of the field and then immediately cuts all the way back to the right side to try and find a hole? And he's like, you keep blocking, and you can't see Bucky, so you just hope you're not throwing somebody into him. But those type of plays, making the first guy miss. It's making people miss in space, but the first guy always really a special part of Bucky Irving's game. And the offense isn't going to be solved by Bucky Irving appearing in the backfield, but it definitely helps make it a little bit easier going in those middle frames of the game and being able to kind of be more confident in your play calling from a consistency standpoint. You know what he can do and those type of plays that he can make, and it closes the margin for error quite a bit. So I think that's where Bucky Irving really shines, and that's where he did shine against the Cardinals.
Yeah, and then Bucky, doing Bucky things is great to see. You heard the chants in the crowd. But one thing I just kind of want to point out, the explosive plays are still there for opposing offenses against Todd Bowles' defense, whether that's allowing, a short underneath throw to go for a big chunk yardage or somebody just wide open over the middle and being able to get those chunk gains. But heading back over to that offense, you had mentioned that, Bucky Irving isn't going to fix all of the offensive problems. There are 2 guys that might be able to help in this area that now have their 21-day practice window open, and wide receivers Mike Evans, and Jalen McMillan. What are we hearing on them? Because they both returned to practice, albeit in probably limited fashion at this point. What are we hearing there? And are they close to returning? Because that 21-day practice window, it could be at any time.
Really hard to tell. I would imagine that Mike Evans is closer for a potential return than Jalen McMillan is. Mike Evans was back at practice today. We didn't see him. He came out after, but he was listed as a limited participant today's walkthrough. Todd Bowles told us today that they want to make sure that he can take football hits, but otherwise he's fine, is how we were told. So I think there's definitely a real possibility that Mike Evans plays this Sunday against the New Orleans Saints. I think there's also an equal possibility he doesn't. But at some point, you're going to want to get him those live game reps before you play the Carolina Panthers, right? That's going to be the biggest game of the year, most important. So getting him back is going to be pretty big for that. So curious to see what they end up doing with him. I think there is a chance that he plays. Wouldn't be surprised if he doesn't. Jalen McMillan, I think he definitely will not play this Sunday, maybe for a few weeks. He has been out and not practicing or playing any football since preseason. He landed on his neck and both fractured and strained it. He was cleared by a doctor, but I imagine he'll have to do a lot more running around and conditioning and all that before they want to throw him out there. That could be a 1 to 2 week thing. I would imagine with how severe the division has gotten with the Panthers breathing right down your neck, that once again, that week 16 game against the Carolina Panthers on the road would be a pretty good target for him. But unsure exactly what the Bucs are thinking. I am more confident that Mike Evans could play Sunday than I would be with McMillan. I think McMillan is still 1 or 2 weeks away from making his debut. But watch Mike Evans. I think there's a possibility that he doesn't play against the Saints. But if he does play against the Saints, I think he'll probably come back very soon after that. So I'm thinking either this week or next week for Mike.
Yeah, speaking of Mike, and if he does return this week, I saw something out there on Twitter. It was like, 1,000 yards still in reach. He only has to average like 172 yards per
172. So apologies to Emeka Egbuka, but you know what we have to do, man. We gotta feed him the rock. We gotta feed him the rock. So,
yeah. I mean, but he's gonna open up so much. I had written an article over there on BucsGameday.com. If you guys go over there and check it out about the impact that Chris Godwin will have on Emeka Egbuka. Mike Evans will have a very similar impact for both Chris and Emeka and J-Mac when he returns, as well as Tez Johnson, Sterling Shepard, whoever's in there, to just be able to open up those throwing lanes for Baker Mayfield and be able to get guys open ultimately. So that's a huge thing. Got a question here regarding J-Mac. Yeah. Will J-Mac be the same player once he does return? Appreciate you, Marcel, for tuning in. We love that you're in here every single week with us. If you guys are watching on YouTube, please shoot us a like, please shoot us a subscription, and turn those notifications on so that you are notified anytime that we are going live. But back to this question, River, is he going to be the same player? I mean, it is a pretty brutal injury. It all depends on how that neck eye ultimately and his spine there kind of respond here moving forward to that conditioning or, the strengthening exercises like those weird neck exercises you see the people do in the gym or whatever. So I think it ultimately depends on that. But what are your thoughts here?
If anyone out there's an F1 fan, you can definitely envision the neck exercise. They pull back and forth. I think it's hard after an injury where you're out for this long to be your same self, right? I mean, we talked to Chris Godwin, who did not take the whole year off, a good chunk of it, and he says, I don't have a percentage, but I'm still, getting back to feeling like where I can play to the best of my ability, and I imagine J-Mac won't be able to do that coming back. The hope is that he'll be able to do that, maybe next year or get into a feel of it, but I think this year, him at 75% is still a huge, huge thing for this offense, because then you could have Emeka Egbuka, Chris Godwin, Mike Evans, and Jalen McMillan on the field at the same time, which would be really nice for those 4 wide receiver sets, instead of guys like, Sterling Shepard, Ryan Miller, Tez Johnson probably would get more phased out, unfortunately. But interesting to see how they do that with personnel. I mean, I think Tez Johnson's proven that he deserves some touches himself, so they've got a pretty big problem here in Tampa Bay. Tampa Bay is all about those receivers, man, and especially now that Brian Hartline's coming down to South Florida, it's going to be even more about the receivers over here. So, home run. I wanted him to be the head coach of the University of Florida, so not super happy about that. But I think it's going to be a lot of fun here at USF. But Brian Hartline product, Emeka Egbuka, has been fantastic, and now he can get on the field with guys like Evans, Godwin, and Jalen McMillan. That's a really lethal sort of threat that you're going to have to keep in mind in the playoffs, hopefully, if the Bucs make it. So we'll see how that goes. But I think his presence enough could really open up the game plan for the Bucs, force defenses to kind of pick and choose, and that's really the big thing he offers.
Yeah, absolutely. And getting Tez on the field, Danette on here, I feel like Tez could be really good with right plays, especially when Baker has to play, backyard football. Tez is built for that kind of improv. Absolutely. Which is what they've kind of had to do here in the early portion, even now into the second half of this season. But again, a guy like Tez Johnson, very raw, still learning, still developing into kind of an NFL type of player, but the promise is there. We've been able to see it this year, but when you got guys on the field that are in front of him, you put those guys on the field in front of him, and then you let everything unfold from them. Coming into the season, it was all about, wow, look at what the Buccaneers have on offense, and then it just all fell apart in a matter of no time. So getting these guys all back on the field healthy will be great. Whether J-Max 100%, highly doubtful. I mean, that injury is really, really tough. I mean, that's why it took him so long to get back.
Right.
But with that being said, the Buccaneers have perhaps one of their easier matchups besides maybe the Falcons and the Miami Dolphins left on their schedule here in Week 14.
No, this is the easiest one.
This is the easiest one. Okay.
Yeah.
Division opponents in the New Orleans Saints. Not very good. Tyler Shuck at quarterback. They're just nothing really much to talk about. Alvin Kamara is kind of a shell of what he really used to be. I guess you can really only look at their defense as being, really net positive for them this year. But
yeah.
let's go ahead and deep dive into this, River.
Yeah, it's a good matchup for Tampa Bay. I'll talk about a few different things here. First, Brandon Staley, their defensive coordinator, done not a bad job there. Their best statistic to give you is that opponents only convert on third down 36.62% of the time against the Saints. It's a really good number. It's number 9 in the NFL.
Yeah.
The Bucs have had a lot of trouble with man coverage. They have a hard time getting open when teams press them. And Brandon Staley is a very much zone-based defensive coordinator. So that's something to look out for. The Bucs may be able to exploit that. Let's do some advanced analytics. Caleb, do you know what personnel grouping the Saints are weakest towards this year? Can you give me a guess?
Weakest towards on the defensive side of the ball?
Yes.
22.
21 personnel.
Close.
Yes, indeed. So the Saints actually are giving up a decent EPA per play against 21 personnel. Plus 0.14 EPA per play. That's the 9th worst in the NFL. 6.5 yards per play, 4th highest whenever they face this. The bad news is that the Bucs ran 21 personnel 3 total times against the Arizona Cardinals. 2 of them were runs, 1 of them was a pass. So Josh Gazzardi continues to not really love that type of personnel grouping where Liam Cohen really did enjoy it. But it might be something to look at here whenever you play against the New Orleans Saints. That'll be one offensive key to look at perhaps to exploit this. Saints defense is a little bit better than many people give it credit for. Defense. This Saints offense is really, really bad. In particular, their offensive line's not great. If you look at the best Buccaneers games as far as getting pressure on the defense and pressure rates, number 1 against the New Orleans Saints, 44.26% pressure rate in Week 8. That was their best pass rushing game. You're going to want to do that again this time around to ensure that you beat the Saints. A little bit different of a quarterback situation with Tyler Shuck as opposed to Spencer Rattler. It doesn't really move the needle for me too much. But the Bucs just came off a pretty good game against the Arizona Cardinals when pass rushing, which is pretty nice. They had a 40% pressure rate, 18 pressures, 45 dropbacks. So good momentum from this Cardinals game, taking it into a game against an opponent that you've already had the best pressure rate of the year against. That's a recipe for success. So I think making sure that that interior continues to get good push. Vita Vea did a really good job. Logan Hall actually had one of his better games pressure-wise against the Arizona Cardinals last week, getting that going with Yaya Diaby and Hassan Reddick on either side. You should be able to shut down the Saints offense because, man, there's not really anything going for it. 26th in yards per game, 30th in points per game.
32nd in red zone.
Yeah, 32nd in red zone, dead last, 21st in third down conversion. They're just not that good. So letting them hang around would be unfortunate. So I think you just kind of got to go for it there. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, on offense, you look at it, Kamara might be back, but I mean, he is not even doing anything. I think they only rushed for 90.7 yards per game. So you're not really worried about the run there. Passing 20th in the league at 205.9, but then again, it's not anything to, be worried about if you're a Bucs defense, albeit the Buccaneer secondary hasn't been the best, especially Zion. But we'll forget about that. The Schrader's in here on YouTube. He said, unfortunately, Wirfs didn't manhandle Chase Young. He will need to do that this game. I'm guessing they are referring to that first game when Wirfs gave up that sack to Chase Young. Are you worried about that at all? But I think that was like early on of Wirfs getting back into a groove, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, Wirfs actually was a DNP today on the injury report with an oblique injury, but I would expect him to play. There's nothing that would tell me that he wouldn't be there to go. He did have a bad game against Chase Young. And, I think he'll probably be looking to make sure that's not the case going forward. That was a little earlier in the year when he was still kind of dealing with his leg injury, his surgery, and now not the case, right? So
Mm.
I definitely think he'll be more palatable to stopping him this time around. But still got to be able to do it. And, obviously Young's going to look at that film and be like, what did I do right? And it's going to be the worst to stop that. So, um, yeah, it's going to be pretty important. And this offense just needs something going. They scored 23 points against the Saints last time around. It's been pretty lackluster, I think, for the past few weeks. Baker Mayfield, I know he talked about it, probably his worst stretch as a Buccaneer, I think, these last few games. Moving the ball all right, but missing quite a few throws. The plays have been there for him, and sometimes, some scatter shot sort of accuracy issues make it a little bit difficult once you get further down the field. So he's getting healthy, obviously. He's got another shoulder injury. He didn't take a direct hit on it. That's good. But just got to be able to move the ball, and you're right. Defensive, pass defense has to really stick there. It's gotten worse since the Saints game, so it's gonna make sure it doesn't rear its ugly head. And
They're going to be going. They have Chris Olave, and I guess Devon Vele is now their wide receiver too.
yeah, so that's going to be important, guys. And again, I think I just like to see them play complementary football, be able to play good offense, good defense, win handily without stress. They kind of did that against the Saints, but their offense looked really rough against the Saints. I thought the first time around. So just got to be able to play both sides and be good there.
Yeah, we can only hope for it. It has yet to happen in the Todd Bowles era. So maybe this will be the game that it does. But the Saints, NFC South, let's talk about that. The Bucs have a half game lead at this point, I believe, over the Carolina Panthers for the NFC South crown.
Yep.
It's starting to get a little worrisome if you're the Bucs. You probably would have thought last week was like, okay, we're going to get a little breathing room because the Panthers are playing the Rams. No, that is not what happened. The Panthers ended up beating the Rams, who the Rams, when the Bucs went into their house, just absolutely dismantled them. So you can put 2 and 2 together there and be like, okay, well, now those 2 out of our last 3 games mean a hell of a lot more than we initially thought, and they're not going to be quite as easy. The playoff chances are taking a little bit of a hit here. Do we still see the Buccaneers coming out of the division? Because even if I believe if they don't win the division, I don't foresee them being able to get in there into the playoffs.
No, they wouldn't. They wouldn't. Listen. If the Bucs win these next 3 games, right? Saints at home, Falcons at home, Panthers on the road. They win the NFC South mathematically.
Right.
If you are a playoff team and you want to consider yourself a playoff team and you don't want to go to the wild card round and get boat raced by the Seattle Seahawks, which is the most likely opponent that you would face if you are a 4 seed. You have to win these 3 games in a row.
Mm-hmm.
You have to do that. These are teams that you can beat. These are teams that you have more talent than. These are teams that you should be expected to come out with a win against. And if you drop a primetime game against the Falcons, Todd Bowles is 2-9 in primetime since 2023. If you stumble against the Saints this weekend, and if you can't beat the Carolina Panthers, most of all, you're going to have to wonder if you really should be a playoff team anyway. So scratching and clawing is really nice, but this is going to be a stretch where the Bucs can prove whether or not they're serious about this, whether they want to be a playoff team, they want to play complementary football, they want to get things together. If their health is going to be that big of an issue in fixing these problems they have on both sides of the ball, we're all going to find out. So It's pretty straightforward. Both the Panthers and the Bucs control their own destiny right now as it stands. So who wants it more, right? And we're going to figure it out.
Yeah, it ultimately is going to come down to that. And then let's just talk about the Panthers here for a little bit because they are on like a roll right now. Bryce Young's got it moving. Defense is playing like lights out. In my opinion, JC Horn's balling. So if they're, fully healthy, like the Bucs are coming down the stretch, these aren't going to be easy games by any chance. I worry about it. I mean, if you split those matchups and you win the rest of those games, great. You're probably in, but you cannot afford, to lose both of those games
Right.
because I mean, you're at that point, you're completely out of it. How good is this Carolina Panthers team?
I have no idea. They are very up and down. They lost to this very same Saints team, 17-7. They beat the absolute red hot Los Angeles Rams last week on Sunday. They are extremely up and down. They're not consistent. You never know what Bryce Young you're going to get. Bryce Young is liable to throw for either 102 yards or 350. They're a super difficult team to evaluate, which leads me to believe they're not a collectively great football team and that you can beat them, right?
Mm-hmm.
But all you have to do is stay disciplined on your end. You play the football you know you can. You make sure you game plan for their weaknesses, which are all on tape. It's all on tape for the Carolina Panthers. You don't get surprised like the Rams did. And you can win that game. You're more talented, you're better. But right now, I mean, the way the offense has struggled, the way the defense has struggled, I would say they're in big danger of not winning this division because the Panthers have played worse games than that.
Mm-hmm.
But they have played much better games than the Buccaneers have at any point this season. So that's going to be the deciding factor. It depends on which Panthers you get, but you have to be prepared for any Panthers you get, right?
Yeah.
So that's going to be key.
Yeah, I mean they've got a strong running game behind Rico Dowdle there. Tet's kind of turning it on a little bit there on the offensive side of the ball, and we've already spoken about their defense. So a lot of people in here. I expect the Bucs to end the season 12-5. DeShrader, Danette also agreeing with him, saying me too. Did the Bucs go undefeated here? Just to get your thoughts.
I mean, I think no, but that would be nice, wouldn't it? That would be the classic Bucks are hot in November that we've seen in the last 3 weeks. It's usually, guys, because the schedule's loaded with your division at the end of December, and then they have easier opponents. But Miami, blink and you'll miss it. Miami's won some games recently, guys. So that's a middle stretch you're gonna have there. That'll be fun between the two Panthers games, and then these Panthers, man, I mean, like last year, really, the Panthers really should have beat the Bucs last year.
Mm-hmm.
Anthony Nelson got a pretty crucial punch out on Chuba Hubbard that saved the entire game, but logistically they should have lost that game.
Mm-hmm.
And then they came to Tampa Bay last year, and the Bucs absolutely smacked them. So they're an up and down weird team under Dave Canales. If the Panthers play their best ball right now, I don't think the Bucs have played that type of best ball yet. So that would be tough. They just got to be more disciplined. They got to be more complimentary of each other. They have issues they have to figure out that aren't just injuries, man. It's not just if Mike Evans comes back, you're going to fix the whole thing. It's play calling issues. It's offensive issues. It's Baker Mayfield issues. You got to fix it. And people say how. Well, we can identify the problems, but they're going to get fixed at some point. They have to. So
Yeah.
we'll see what Todd Bowles does. We'll see what Josh Grizzard does. We'll see if Baker Mayfield can get a little healthier, maybe, if that's what is causing his play to drop off a little bit. But if not, then you just got to hope that Bryce Young throws for 102 on you in week 16, 17, and 18 and not 305 with 3 touchdowns. Tet McMillan could abuse this Bucs secondary. Can't let that happen. But to end this conversation, Baker Mayfield was asked about Dave Canales and the Panthers and how he feels about them today, and he said, "Well, we're playing the Saints this Sunday, so important to keep that in mind too."
Yeah, and he referred to him by his first name too. So apparently they're still good over between those two. Not so sure if the guy over there in Jacksonville quite has the relationship with Baker that he used to. But a pretty cool question. You had just mentioned Todd Bowles. Marcel in here. If the Bucs miss the playoffs, is Bowles done?
Why do I have to answer this question,
I'll answer it too. But I'm going to let you go first because I don't know. It can go either way. I mean, it's the guys led you to 3-4 straight, playoff appearances.
I mean, you have a meeting about it. You have a Zoom with the Glazers about it.
What's the fun word to throw around here now in college football? An evaluation of the
an evaluation of talent.
Yeah.
Listen, Todd Bowles just got extended, but that doesn't mean much. I'm not sure if any of you older Buccaneers fans remember. I say that like I remember, but I was really young at that point. John Gruden got extended by the Buccaneers and then fired in the same offseason. We don't know how long Todd Bowles has been extended. We don't know how much he's making. So that could be anything at this point. And if you go from 6-2 to missing the playoffs, I think you have to consider it, right? You extend Todd Bowles with the understanding that he has identifiable issues and that he will fix those issues going forward. That was what Jason Light wanted to see when he extended Todd Bowles. A lot of those very same issues are still prevalent with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, right? And they are. We talk about Todd Bowles being a defensive head coach, right? Let's look at their stats this year. I mean, points per game 23rd, yards per game 22nd, yards per play 26th, red zone scoring 30th in the NFL. Defensive wise, pass defense 29th, pass yards per game 28th, opponent yards per pass. A lot of these same issues that have plagued this Buccaneers team are still occurring year after year after year after year. And that's coaching. That's coaching. Yeah. And Todd Bowles does give you these division wins, and you go to the playoffs. And the Bucs haven't gone to the playoffs for so long before this. But I would ask you guys, I mean, maybe outside of like one or two divisions, right? Or maybe like one, like the AFC North or something. You put this Todd Bowles Buccaneers team in any other division in the National Football League, do they go to the playoffs this year? I don't think they do. And I mean, they're going to go to the playoffs. They're going to play the 5 seed, who is likely the Seattle Seahawks, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, I could survey 10 to 15 people. And I mean, how many of them would look you in the eyes and say, oh, they're going to win that game? They're probably not going to win that game, right?
No, especially when you've already beat them once and they're already going to be prepared for you coming.
And they're much better than they were at that point in the game, at that point in the year. So another first-round exit might have the conversation, but at some point, the definition of insanity is doing the same thing and expecting different results, and we've had the same results. So, yeah, I mean, I think they'd think about it. I don't know if they commit to something like that this year, but man, a complete collapse, you would absolutely have to have the conversation.
Yeah, I agree, and I'm not going to answer it because you pretty much explained everything, but there's this one I'll address real quick. Do you think they should go get a defensive coordinator and just let Todd be head coach? I think that would defeat the purpose ultimately because Todd has had his issues as a head coach in decision-making, no matter what it's been. I mean, he's gotten a little bit better on that side of things, but ultimately you would want to cut ties. If you were going to do this sort of thing, last year would have been the time. Hey, Todd, you want to go be DC, stick around with the team. The team respects you. We want you back. But Liam's this up and coming guy.
Well, that never happens.
Right. Exactly. That never happens. But again, I don't think that would be a scenario for anything. Leanne also in here, really interesting. I've never quite seen something or a question for the both of you. Have you ever noticed that that they base what seems like a lot of their answers on what you guys in other podcasts discuss with the fans in your chat?
Well, a lot of us are the ones asking questions. So that's probably a big part of it. I go to One Buck every day when I can. The Pewter Report guys are there at One Buck every day that they can. And that's kind of part of our job, I think, right? I mean, you guys have questions about the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. And when I go there, I try to ask questions that are things that fans would be wondering. And I know a lot of other people do the same. So in that sense, yeah. Whenever they don't play good football, fans are upset and they want answers. And, part of our job, I think, is to try our best. Not that we always do the best job at that sort of thing, but try our best to ask those questions and get answers. So in that respect, I'd say, yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Especially when you got guys like Scott from PR over there. And then you got Rick also throwing out the real hard hitting questions that fans want answered that a lot of us might not have. I don't even know where to go with that. You know what to ask. Ask Todd Bowles, but they've kind of been around it and around Todd Bowles long enough to have those personal relationships with them. But we truly do appreciate being able to bring your guys' questions to the forefront that you guys want to know about. So whenever we're here live, definitely throw in questions, because it gives us even ideas to bring in to One Buck to be able to ask, or, during press conferences after games as well. So with that being said, we thank you guys for tuning in. If you guys were watching anywhere other than on YouTube, and if you were watching on YouTube, go ahead, shoot us a like, shoot us a subscription as well if you aren't already, and turn on those notifications so you're notified anytime we are going live, usually every single Wednesday night here at 7:30 on YouTube. And then we do have post-game and post-practice content as well for you guys at bucsgameday.com. With that being said, River, go ahead and sign us off, brother.
Fire the cannons.
Fire the